Hey y'all, good afternoon. It's John with New York Metro Weather. Hope everyone's doing all right, having a good week so far. We are getting ready for a storm system coming this weekend, dealing with a lot of cold right now, but the storm this weekend, very complicated. Could be a pretty substantial storm in its own right, and we want to kind of break down exactly what's going on. It's a complicated evolution, and there's still a time for a lot of change and many different scenarios that could play out. So first thing we're looking at here is the atmosphere, mid-levels of the atmosphere, 10,000 feet up, and we're looking at the spin, vorticity in the atmosphere. And this helps us understand where the disturbances are in the atmosphere. And the storm that is going to eventually impact the Northeast this weekend is modeled here on Thursday evening to be over the western United States. You'll notice that there's actually two pieces to this storm. We have one here over Canada, another one over the Pacific Northwest. And these two systems kind of come together here over the central U.S. That's in itself a complicated interaction, but we'll leave it at that. Those two systems come together, and eventually what happens is they kind of make themselves cut off a little bit from the overall flow of the atmosphere, and they dig all the way into the southern United States. You'll notice that we have a storm that was over the Atlantic here, but that thing gets out of the way really quickly, and then the storm over the southeast kind of has a path to amplify and turn up the coast, and you'll see that happen here. There's also a third disturbance that comes in over the Great Lakes. You can see that one pretty clearly here on the models. That helps to turn this whole thing and amplify it even further, and allows this storm to come right up into the Northeast states, into New England, and eventually move past our area. But the combination of all of these dynamics as this storm evolves is going to create the possibility of not only a strong storm, but one with widespread heavy precipitation and somewhere substantial winter weather. The problem for substantial winter weather in the New York City area is that this storm right here, which is over Southeast Canada in the beginning of the period, is moving away very quickly. So there's nothing really to hold that cold air in. You'll notice that by the time we get, this is valid Sunday afternoon, there's nothing here. This storm has already gone way up north, heading into Greenland, and the storm over the southeast has plenty of room to flex its muscles and amplify up the coast, and that could allow warm air to come surging up with it. So let's go a little closer. We'll zoom into the United States and look at what individual weather models are predicting. And the one thing I want to say here is that these are individual models and individual solutions. We don't know if it's going to turn out exactly like this, but I want to use it as a way to illustrate, the possibilities of what might unfold here on individual weather models. So this is the GFS model, and you'll see our disturbance comes down here. This is valid Sunday morning, and we have a low pressure that moves into the Ohio Valley. Initially, that high is still over the Northeast United States here, keeping that cold air locked in. But eventually, as our storm begins to amplify, you'll notice that high slides off the coast. And so that means the air coming into the New York City area is coming now out of the southeast. And that allows warm air to move in closer to the coast. You'll see the GFS model takes the low pressure all the way north of DC into parts of Pennsylvania. And so while the area would be impacted by snow on the front end, we'd eventually see a change over to rain, and the majority of that winter weather would be all the way northward in New England. You can see that kind of happen here on this model. This is kind of the scenario that we put out yesterday, 3 different scenarios. This would be scenario 1, which is that low pressure tracks close to the coast or even inland, and that allows that warm air to come surging in. Other models kind of all over the place at the moment, but there is a little bit of a consensus growing that the storm could take this track. Let's look at ensembles. We talked about this the last time that we had a discussion about individual weather models. The value of weather ensembles is that you are able to take one weather model, kind of tweak it 30 or 50 times, and then look at what the individual model thinks might occur. So this is the European model. We're looking at the simulated low pressure areas across the East Coast, and you'll notice a very similar situation to what we just looked at on the GFS. The high pressure is sliding off the coast, so the flow around the storm is already not very cold, and the low pressures are all inland already on Sunday afternoon and evening. And by the time we get into Monday, a lot of these low pressures are inland over the coast. So that would indicate that the majority of winter weather would be inland away from the coast. The one caveat here, though, that we talked about is there's still quite a bit of spread. So we have the western envelope is here over Pennsylvania, and the eastern envelope is here way out to sea. And so it's important to note that even a slight adjustment to the west or east could make a difference here. And that's kind of what we're looking at. We want to make sure that, we're still 120, 130 hours out from this storm. Is still next Monday. And there's still quite a bit of time for things to change and adjust. But there's a growing consensus that this storm is going to take a track a little bit closer to the coast. So if it were to take that track, what does that mean exactly for the New York City area? The GFS model takes the surface low way inland here over Pennsylvania. You see we do start as snow though, especially in the interior. Eventually we warm up quite a bit with that surface low going inland. But snow is not the only concern. This storm system also has a powerful jet stream associated with it. And so we look at model simulations and you see very strong winds pushing into the New Jersey coast, parts of Long Island, parts of New York, wind gusts possibly over 30 or 40 miles an hour, and a very strong onshore flow. That could lead to coastal flooding, especially with the tide cycles that we are simulating for Sunday into Monday. This kind of simulation from weather models suggests that you would be possibly looking at coastal flooding, strong winds near the shore. And in addition to the, even if we do have the lack of snowfall, you can see the snow pushes northward. This is a very heavy rain being simulated in addition to that strong onshore flow. So there's a lot to unpack here. If you're in the interior Northeast, looking good for the possibility of a high impact winter weather event. Near the coast, a lot less certain, leaning like it's going to track closer to the coast. And the possibility would exist for wind and heavy rain after some initial winter weather on the front end of this storm. But with that being said, we just talked about this. There's still quite a bit of time to go. And if we go and look at the GFS ensemble just one more time, there's still quite a bit of spread as to where this storm is going to track. These are all over the place, and we're still pretty far out from the impacts of this storm system. And we want to give it the time to evolve on models, on ensemble, so we can get an idea exactly where this storm is going to trend. So again, the highlights: major storm looking likely Sunday into Monday, at least some snow on the front end, even in the city and parts of the interior. As of the moment, it looks like the interior is going to take the brunt of this one from a winter weather perspective. But if you're in the New York City area, snow to rain and wind, and if you're near the coast, we're looking at the possibility of coastal flooding and strong onshore winds with the storm system as it moves up from Sunday into Monday. So we got a long way to go with this one, a lot to unpack here. We're going to break it down every day for you moving forward with the latest information. Hang tight and stay tuned. A lot more coming this week, guys. Have a great Wednesday for now. We'll talk to you soon.